Anchoring elements work on the principle of traction. They are used to improve the balance of vertical structures such as containing walls or embankments. This is done by drilling subhorizontal holes or holes angled at 30 and 45 degrees and introducing cables through the holes, injecting grout and then tensioning the cables until they reach the tonnage necessary to support the structure as designed. Do not forget all the individual personal protection elements that you are required to wear: hard hat, working clothes, vest, gloves, safety shoes and eye and ear protection. The working platform must be horizontal, stable and set on compact terrain. The worksite perimeter must be suitably delimited and signalled. Machinery crossing points and personnel access areas must be clear of obstacles and meet good safety conditions at all times. Materials will be unloaded by a crane lorry and lifting gear. These lifting elements will be checked periodically and will be replaced as soon as wear and tear reduces their performance. It is strictly prohibited to stand beneath suspended loads or within the operating radius of the crane. No personnel will be allowed on site other than those necessary to carry out the guiding and positioning maneuvers required to set the machinery in place, and they must remain within the operator's range of vision at all times. A mechanical device will be used to insert the drill bits into the cladding pipes and these into the machine. If such a device is not available, the operation must be carried out by a group of several workers according to the weight and dimensions of the pipes. The workers must handle the drill collars and rods in their central section when inserting them into the drilling carriage, and must take care never to introduce their fingers into the tube during this operation in order to avoid trapping and injury. The drilling rods are then placed on two support frames set up previously near the machine in order to avoid continuous handling and movement of the rods, as well as preventing unnecessary strain on the workers. During the actual drilling operation, the machine operator and his assistant will wear protective goggles to shield them against flying particles. They must keep a safe distance and must wear ear protection to minimize the effects of noise. All of the fluid emerging from the drill hole must be channeled to a sedimentation area to prevent it from collecting in the work area. When unwinding the coiled anchoring material, the worker must stand on the inside to avoid lashing of the coil. Before cutting the securing ropes, the material must be checked to ensure that it is in a perfect state. The operation of moving the anchoring material to the injection area must be undertaken by a sufficient number of workers who must all carry it on the same shoulder. The machine operator will watch this maneuver carefully and will keep the machinery switched off until all the anchoring material has been set in place. When pouring cement into the cement mixer, the operator must wear a mask and goggles to protect against the dust created by the process and shield his eyes from any splashes of the cement mixture. He must also wear gloves to avoid cuts and any skin contact with the cement. Before removing the injection hoses, the operator will verify that there is no pressure in the circuit, using a manometer to measure the pressure. All controls must be set to the off position, and all of the hydraulic connectors must be connected correctly and in perfect working order before connecting the equipment to the power supply. The assembly of the distribution plates and other anchoring head blocking elements must be checked very carefully before starting up the tensioning equipment to avoid any cuts, impacts or trapping of the hands. A crane will be used to handle the multi-strand cable tensioning equipment together with a crane lorry or a forklift. The bundles must be slung correctly from the crane arm using hooks with safety catches. The crane operator and the concrete tensioning operators must work in complete coordination with each other. Workers and observers must stand outside the turning area of the tensioning jack and must never be in a position behind the jack during loading. The tensioning pressure must never exceed the calculated design value in order to avoid breaking of the cables, which would in turn cause the wedges and steel cable to shoot out towards the workers on the site. To detension the anchoring elements, the worker must wear the appropriate personal safety gear such as protective goggles, fire-resistant clothing, safety shoes and leather gloves to prevent burns or injuries due to flying material. The oxy-cutting torch must be kept in good condition. The spigots and pressure-reducing valve on the oxygen bottle must be free from grease and oil. If the tensioning operation is carried out at a height, scaffolding or lifting platforms must be used during the process. The worker will never climb up or down the ladder with the blowtorch on. The blowtorch will be ignited once the worker has reached the anchoring element that is to be detensioned. The anchoring element will never be cut from below to prevent it from falling onto the ignited blowtorch. The cut will always be made from the side or from above. Once the cut has been made, the cable ends must be extinguished to avoid smoke. The cutting equipment, particularly the output nozzle, must be cleaned periodically to remove residue of melted material and ensure that it operates perfectly. Never stand beneath suspended loads. Keep drilling collars and rods on supporting frames to avoid overstraining. The machine operator and his assistant must work in a coordinated manner while maintaining visual contact. The encasing pipes and rods must be carried by two workers who must never handle them by the ends, but rather hold them in the middle. The anchoring material must be unwound with the worker on the inside to prevent lashing injuries. The anchoring material must be carried by several operators together. During tensioning operations, the workers must remain at a suitable distance outside the turning radius of the jack and must never move behind the jack while it is loaded. Appropriate auxiliary devices must be used whenever necessary. The cutting equipment must be kept in pristine condition and the anchoring material must never be detensioned from below.